New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Z and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. Reverend Robert over here.
Rev Z right here.
And Laura over here.
And we are two ministers and one soon-to-be minister talking shit this morning, folks. Thanks for being with us. This program happens every Friday morning here on the New Thought Media Network. And if you do not know our special guest today, the amazing, incomparable, award-winning Laura Topper, then by all means, let us introduce her to you. She's a regular around the network. She does probably might do more than I do at this point, and is just one of our favorites. So grateful you could be back with us this morning, Laura. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me here. It's great to be here.
And folks, you know, the nature of interstellar communications is that we have what we call the North Atlantic lag going on this morning. There may be a little bit of lag between our comments and Laura's. Just know that's normal. Hang with us, and it'll become natural as we go along. Okay, happy Pride Month! Yay! We're back. Now, here's the fun part, folks, right? You're looking at three cisgender folks who are all heterosexual, and we're still here celebrating Pride today. And we're going to celebrate Pride throughout the entire month because it's an important remembrance for everyone that we are all one. And that sometimes we have to celebrate our differences to recognize our equality and our equity. Laura, before the program, we were talking and you were saying that in England, the celebration pretty much originated in your hometown of Brighton. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Probably about 25 years ago, first started here in Brighton in the southeast. If you look it up, Brighton Pride, you'll see it's a huge event, and it's kind of snowballed and got greater and greater over the years. And now we have center stage with all sorts of people coming. Like Kylie was here 2 years ago in Brighton performing, and you know it's a really trademarked event for Brighton, and that's grown around the country here as well, with other major cities now really bringing awareness. That's it, bringing awareness to all of us through this celebration of oneness and uniqueness. Great fun. Yeah. It's great fun to see everybody really expressing themselves as they truly are. I think every day needs to be like that.
Yes. Yeah, and then when you look at how far this whole idea, I mean, it started in June of '69 when the police raided a gay bar down in Greenwich Village in New York. And I can remember when I lived in New York, the parade that they would have, they would be massive. With some serious celebration. But But to think that it started with a raid at the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village to where it is 50 years later, 50 plus years later, it's amazing when you look at how the rights have changed and how the recognition has changed, and it is and by the way, the person who was the leader was was black. The person who started that revolt was a black woman, black trans. I think she was a trans person in New York.
Yes. I love what you're saying, because it's a demonstration of what happens when we shift our consciousness. And my teens got a T-shirt, right? It says the first Pride was a riot,
right?
Because it was an uprising against an oppressive belief system and an oppressive culture that said no more at all. And we're gonna come out and we're gonna celebrate our uniqueness. I have many fond memories marching through Denver with the Denver parade. It's been a big parade until COVID. And I haven't even heard what's going to happen this year. I know there'll be an event, but
it's going to be live. I just saw it this morning. It's going to be a live parade. I forget the date, but it'll be here in Denver. It'll be live, and I just want to give shout outs to Marsha Johnson, who was the transgender activist who went to jail for this whole thing to get it started.
Wow, yeah. All right. So, what's more natural to follow than Pride than the Queen?
Yes.
70 years in leadership as a ruler. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to say that, Her Majesty. But we've got our perfect Anglophile around. Laura's here. Tell us a little more, Laura. What's it like over there this week? And what's it been like to have one leader under your whole life, over your whole life as it's been?
The thing is, she is incredible. I love the Queen. I believe the work that she is doing and has done, and what she has achieved for the Commonwealth as well, and her integrity she's an incredible role model for so many values that she stands by, and people here, the general public really. The consensus is that the Queen is just great and people really love her. Of course, everyone has their own opinions about her, and generally celebrated here. I think that, it's a 4-day event. We have all sorts of things going on here to celebrate her. People are having street parties, thousands and thousands of people are celebrating this. And I feel a little bit of inside of me as to, wow, there's so much going on in the world right now where I know that we are really, being called to share our finances and be a little bit more aware of how we're choosing to use that money wisely. So part of me looks at it and thinks, okay, this is quite over the top. It's quite over the top the way they're doing it. And yet that is the nature of the way that we celebrate these things here in the UK. Well, but the Queen she can do it.
No, go ahead, Laura, finish.
She's being celebrated for 70 years of. She's married to this country. She's married, that's it. She took a vow at that time when she became queen, when she was so young, and everything in her life has been pushed aside, and the country is her agenda. So it's a big task. It's a big task that she's taken on and continued with for so many years.
Yeah, well, we were talking a little bit before we came on the air, and she's 96. I forget when her birthday is. I don't know if she's soon to be 97
now
or not.
Her birthday's around now.
Oh, it's around.
Her birthday is around now.
April 21st.
Okay, so she just turned 96, right?
Yep.
She's still up and about. When you think about that, she took the reins of the country at age 26. I think they said she's seen like 8 presidents, I think, all the way back to Truman. And when I think about, where was I at 26? Could I run the country at 26? And I don't think so. I'd have gave it a good try probably, but I don't know. And then when you think about the heir apparent, Prince Charles, right? He's 73 right now. So, a lot of this in my mind is preparation for Prince Charles, not Charles. What's the oldest boy of Diana? He's going to be taking a ring. William, yes.
Prince William.
Yes. Prince William.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. And Harry and Meghan are back over there for the celebration. So that should be good. A little reconciliation.
Some family bonding time.
Yes.
I love it. Well, and I've always felt for Charles. Poor guy's been in training for his job for 50, 60 years now, and they're never going to put him in. The ultimate bench warmer, poor guy. Like, his mom's going to go, and then he's probably going to go 3 weeks later because of the heartbreak. So Laura, what were you going to say?
I believe that we inadvertently, the Queen really practices new thought principles. I believe that mentally and emotionally, she's aligned. When I see her, and she's in integrity, and I believe that she is one who understands how to use the power of her mind, the one mind. And she has put that into practice for her own life, for her own sanity, because to be in that kind of position, I think one would really need to have those boundaries, very clear boundaries for your life. And I think she's mastered that impeccably. I really do.
Wow. Still going at 96. And so we wish her all the best. God save the Queen.
Yeah. God bless her.
I guess that's appropriate. So, however, we're going to segue into our big story of the week, folks. England might be able to do a great job of saving the Queen and protecting the Queen, but I doubt we could here in the United States. Here we are on another Friday talking about gun violence in the United States and the horrors and the just incalculable number of people who are being forever affected by what's happening in this country. If you haven't heard about Tulsa, well, how many have Z's our statistician? He looked it up this morning. How many mass shootings in the United States since Uvalde?
There's been 20, and I think that may have gone up, but definitely 20 confirmed shootings. And that's in just the last one was on Tuesday, so that's about 10 days. Yeah. So that's two mass shootings a day on average. And the one thing I just heard, I was looking at the shooter in Tulsa. The gentleman that had just purchased the gun, and went in and killed the surgeon and another doctor, a innocent patient, and somebody else. I mean, it's ridiculous.
The stories I've seen, the suspect or the gentleman that we know did this received back surgery from a surgeon on May 19th. Has been complaining that his pain medication wasn't strong enough, that he was in pain. So he decided to buy a gun and go after the guy. And there's a quote, somebody overheard him say that he was going after this doctor and anybody that got in his way. it pains. I first off, can we find any better example of why we need a 3-day waiting period? At the absolute minimum, there should not be a single gun sold in this country because this isn't bad guys with guns, folks. This is people getting a hold of guns legally. And for whatever wonderful warped belief system is operating, I don't see how this is sustainable. I don't see how we continue with the road we're on with the results we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, because they're saying the dude bought the gun hours, not even a day, hours. They say he bought the AR-15 style rifle hours before using it to kill his former doctor and 3 others. Now, I mean, you know, a lot of politicians have been saying, well, no, it's mental illness and it's not the. I mean, this guy presumably was not mentally ill. He was in pain from surgery, and that may have triggered some spontaneous stuff. But even so, for him to be able to buy a gun hours before, and then, I mean, like you said, if there was a 3-day waiting period, or they did some kind of background check, I don't know, he may not have had anything on social media about his pain or whatever, but still, just a waiting period, and now people are still saying, oh, it's mental illness, it's not the guns that kill people, it's people. Yeah, well, people can't kill them if they don't have the gun.
Right.
At least not with a gun, anyway. I mean, goodness gracious.
Laura, as someone that is sort of witnessing. Go ahead, Laura.
Yes. Witnessing in shock, in sadness, almost in disbelief that this is happening, feeling like I'm hearing about a computer game, because in my mind, I can't quite compute that this is how a huge population of people live in a country with those layers of fear that this could happen at any time. And that, of course, not to say that there isn't an underground availability of armory here in the UK or in any country. And yet it feels as if people are being given this right of freedom to be able to purchase it, to purchase guns, and that people's freedom is people are being murdered and killed. Their right of freedom is being completely squashed. So for me, it feels as if there is a disparity between, you know, those who have the say of these bill of amendments and laws. Where are they placing their focus on people's freedom? What does freedom really mean? Does freedom mean we can purchase armed weapons and go and do what we want with them because that's free will? Or does freedom mean that the people in the country are safe and protected and have freedom to live and to enjoy this life? That's what I'm feeling in my heart. There needs to be an understanding of what freedom means.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, and you know, people bring up the whole second. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, I was just gonna join in. Our good friend Linda's adding into the conversation. The Second Amendment does not say okay for possession of any type of gun under any circumstances. It's a better way to look at it, Linda. I think some people would argue with us on that, but I agree with you. And we've, much like Laura's saying, what does freedom really mean? We have to recognize that the language that was used at the time that the Second Amendment was written in no way could have foreseen a well-regulated militia called the Proud Boys, or any of these far-right paramilitary groups that seem to think they have free reign to intimidate, to open carry machine guns and other automatic weapons for the purpose of intimidation, not for the purpose of protection, not for the purpose of defending the country. And that action got that constitutional right was promoted over the last several years to the point where, and I have to say, I do think video games do play some part. I get it that kids know that it's fake, but I think it also instills in those that aren't as mentally stable as others, it does instill a place of maybe I can get away with that. And we mix these things together. It's okay to be seen with a gun. It's easy to get a gun. And my life is filled with violent images and violent subcontext that people snap and they have the means to go crazy.
And I believe that we become desensitized. So, just as you say, children, they may believe that it's not real and they're watching it. And of course, and they're taking part and interacting. But if you think about that from a new thought perspective, if you're putting your whole body into an action, it's like if you're practicing tennis, using your body and you're changing your cellular makeup and your neurotransmitters, and you're learning how to play tennis, and then you practice and you practice and you become really good at it, and you believe that you're good at it, and then you are. And what's the difference between that and a computer game that has a violent intent? Children are practicing that all day long, and as they grow that for years, it becomes more state being. They would go and do it. Someone hasn't got the ability to stop themselves, then it becomes okay.
Right. And we know for a fact that anything that's repeated in mind puts an imprint on the brain, and that we know from our teachings that whether you have the idea or you're really doing the same, the body and the brain can hardly tell the difference. And then if we go and just look at this whole Second Amendment thing, that the Second Amendment was written over 200 years ago. 1791 is when the Second Amendment, they had an idea of AR, semi-automatic, anything. It was a musket. You got to get your powder and push the thing down, put the flint in. And I mean, it was a whole nother kind of a ball game when they said take arms for militias and stuff. So, I mean, we need to upgrade these. They hold them as sacred, but they're not sacred enough that we can allow 20 mass shootings in a week. A little over.
Right. Let's go. If we're gonna live by the letter of the law, let's go back to muskets.
Yeah.
And I used to be the guy that said, okay, if you're responsible, you can own a gun. If you can prove, let's license and registration and this and that and the other thing. And my opinion has been changed. I think we just got to do away with guns. And if you need a gun to hunt, for subsistence, to sustain yourself, then you can get a permit to hunt, and some organization, local, state government can loan you a rifle to go hunting for the week or the month or whatever. And otherwise, we got to do away with these things.
Do both.
I had that argument. Go back to hunting with a bow. People were doing that long before guns came along, and we did fine. We ate. So go back to a bow and a knife. And if you can kill 10, 19 kids with a knife, that's maybe the cops would be a little more willing to rush into the room if all they knew was in there was a knife. But when our police are afraid to confront somebody with an AR-15, when the police are cowering in the hallways, afraid to go in there or being ordered not to because there's an AR-15 in the room, that's out of hand.
Yeah. And of course, there's the one story where the mother rushed in as the police were trying to stop her, and they had at one point had her in handcuffs. She rushed in and saved 2 sons while the police were sitting there trying to figure it out.
Yep. And no mother should ever have to do that.
And that's the instinct of a mother or a father or a carer who loves that child so much that they're not going to stand by and watch it happen. And that could have been devastating for that parent too, you know.
Yeah.
And I think my question is, how do we? I listened to a talk the other day by Dr. Edward Villone, and it was an incredible talk. He was talking about the power of prayer and how then we're inspired because we need to take inspired action through prayer now, and we mustn't hold our voice in anymore. We must speak. And I was really I that talk because it allowed me to say to myself, yeah, where am I not speaking? And it is okay to speak up. And if I lived in America, I would be the one knocking on doors, you know, of local government officials and whatever. So I feel a little disconnected here because I don't know being in America, use this, you know, to help this situation. So I use my prayer. I use myself in prayer, in my consciousness, to open up to love, to knowing that love is here. And I think a lot of people around the world probably feel a bit like, what do I do? How can I help with this, not being in America?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I love, you know, that you made from Dr. Edward Villone about inspired prayer, a prayer that inspires you to do something, because in Uvalde, Texas, has said, we're tired of moment of silence, we're tired of prayers, we need inspired action is what we need. You know, as we begin to do that, let's do that in prayer. Let's go into prayer so that we're doing the right or moving in the right direction with our actions after we've prayed, so that we can be centered, so that we can get a broader view of the situation, and begin to really put some holistic, you know, actions and rules and everything in place, because a new bill like that just passed the House. Now we'll see what happens when it goes up to the next level of scrutiny, if you will.
Scrutiny. You know, folks, but we are hitting on the right points here. If you're in America, call your senator. Call your senator. Call him again. Call him a third time. Leave a message. Make it a daily practice every day. Call your senators and tell them what you believe, what you want. We want responsible gun ownership legislation. We want our kids to be able to go to school without the overriding fear that today could be the last. We want our families to know they can go into supermarkets and not be concerned. We want people to know that they can go see their doctor and not have to be looking over their shoulder. And this past week, a meme was put out by our dear friend, Reverend David Alexander. Contrary to popular belief, being spiritual is not about being calm, still, and unmoved in troubled times. I would say we are in troubled times. In fact, a state of holy discontent can birth the most creative, transformative, and powerful spiritual energy in the world. And so we are using a combination of our spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, visioning, and it's okay to be pissed off, upset, angry, and vocal about it. With your senators, it's almost marching season here in Colorado, and I want to start a movement that the entire country keeps their kids out of school for the first day of school next year. Unless we pass comprehensive legislation this summer, I think America should keep their kids out of school for the very first day of next year's school year. And let's make a statement. Let's go out in the streets and march. But let's do it without guns. Let's do it with peace in our hearts. Let's do it with a sense of using our spiritual practice and this holy discontent to come up with creative, imaginative, and a solution to this.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Just really thinking and feeling this as you're saying it. There are a couple of things. You know, this whole idea of freedom of speech being removed. It's in our country. Freedom of speech is, you know, we're being dumbed down a little, where we can't necessarily say exactly what we'd want to say in public. Gatherings are being curtailed for people to go out, and you know how we used to see a man on the street in the street with a banner saying, you know, the world is gonna end in 4.4 years. Be saved. And you know, that kind of thing now is kind of, you can't really go out and say and shout that. And there's a chance that somebody could get arrested for that here now. Freedom of speech is a big thing here, lack of it. And I believe that, you know, when I look at Gandhi, for example, or Martin Luther King, and they stood and knew what they meant when they said peace, and they also knew what it meant to be an activist and to be that activist with a ripple of peace, knowing the truth and doing what they did. And both of them, you know, their lives taken because of what they stood for, because of what they believed in their hearts. And I'm not suggesting that we go out and say, oh, I'm prepared to die for this. And yet, I think they are incredible examples of human beings who have stood in their knowing of truth, of what it really means to be humane and how to treat people and how we treat each other in this life. I think that by just saying, oh, let's educate people on how to use guns, I think that's really demeaning. I think it's so demeaning because on the one hand, you're saying, oh, here, have the, you know, walk into a sweetie shop and have whatever you want to eat, whatever sweets you want. But you have to be careful because the blue ones and the red ones and the pink ones could be harmful. Well, that's going to entice people to want to actually, you know, it's like temptation. They're putting temptation there for people to test things out. So I think there needs to be a real change here in the law. That's my piece saying now for using my voice. But I do believe that there needs to be a change in the law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're wondering what you stumbled into, this is Ministers Talking Shit. It happens every Friday morning here on New Thought Media Network. We're going to take just a brief moment to say thank you to our committed givers and our organizational sponsors, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our final thoughts for today's program. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thanks for being here. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RScP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Yes. Thank you to all of our organizational sponsors and individual donors. It's thanks to people like you that we're able to do what we do and bring this philosophy out into the world in unique and new and different ways. So we appreciate you being with us. If you'd like to become a part of our committed giving program, head over to the website, ntmedia.org. Click on donate, make it a monthly donation, and we'll get you on the next version of the video as well. All right. We've got just another moment here, so we're going to get this wrapped up. Z, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Go out and do something, but do it with inspired.
Yes. Laura.
To open up to dissolving fear in life and saying what we feel needs to be said with integrity.
Wow. All right. What they said. The two of put the two. That's my final thought, folks. Vote. Call your senator. Be a voice. Be involved. It doesn't have to be all-consuming. It doesn't have to be marching in the streets. But now more than ever, I believe it is the New Thought belief system, the New Thought philosophy, when activated, has the power to change the conditions on this planet. And whether you're watching from the US or anywhere around the planet, your voice, your consciousness has absolutely contributes to the change that we're experiencing. So believe it, pray it, and act upon it in whatever way that feels appropriate and aligned. Thank you for being with us. We are Ministers Talking Shit. This is the New Thought Media Network. We'll be back next Friday with more. Please stay with us today. We've got a good day of programming besides our normal programming coming up here. Sekou Writes and Be Your Own Hero in just a moment. Rev Daily Prayers at 8:15. Rev Melissa with the Daily Sip at 8:30. And Just One You with Reverend Barbara is at 1 p.m. today. 1 p.m. today. We got the good news at 5, and Pastor Michael with the Fireside Chat at 6. Wraps all up with prayers at 8:15 in the evening as well. Thank you for being with us. We love you. Until we see you again, until we all connect, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.